Welcome everyone. My name is Nikos, aka Sephir, and this is Out of the Box, EDH. Happy New Year everyone! Yesterday, Wizards released huge spoilers regarding their new set, Lorwyn Eclipsed, and more importantly, the list of its two precons. In tonight's video, we'll talk about one of these precons called Blight, a June deck that takes advantage of the distribution of -1/-1 counters on the field, and find cards to upgrade it. As always, I am talking about brackets 2 and 3. First, let's have a talk about its commanders. The first one is Onti Ul Kersrets. 4 CMC in Jund colors, 4/4 Goblin Warlock. Word, Blight 2. This is a new keyword. To Blight 2, a player puts 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature they control. Interesting. Whenever one or more -1/-1 counters are put on a creature, draw a card if you control that creature. If you don't control it, its controller loses 1 life. A very fun and interesting design. Of course, there have been commanders before that cared about putting -1/-1 counters on your opponents, but this one rewards you even more so, I may add, if you add them on your own creatures, be it from Blight cards or whatever else. Also, Onti doesn't seem to care how many counters you put, but in how many creatures you put them. So, for example, if you somehow put 5 -1/-1 counters on one of your creatures from one effect, you will just draw 1 card. But if you put a -1/-1 counters on 5 creatures, you draw 5 cards. I like her a lot. She provides both a stellar, if built properly, card advantage engine and a win con on herself. Now, let's see the alternative commander of the list. The Reaper, King No More. 3 CMC on hybrid colors that can either be played with Jund colors or too generic for any color instead. 3/3 Scarecrow. Poor guy, got a lot smaller. When the Reaper enters, put a -1/-1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Whenever a creature an opponent controls with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, you may put that card onto the battlefield under your control. Do this only once each turn. Okay, there are some similarities and some differences between the Reaper and the Onti. There are both payoffs, but they do not provide the counters themselves. Okay, the Reaper provides 2 counters on ETB once and that's it, but in principle what I say is true. The biggest difference the Reaper has with Onti is that this one is heavily focused on putting counters on your opponent's creatures and not your own. And the second one is that this one triggers only once per turn. He's like a lesser Necroskitter, a card that is already in the list by the way. I feel Onti is more unique, more powerful, more fun, and more versatile, the superior commander of the two in any way. So, let's see what extra cards we can add in our list. First of all, while Onti is an excellent abuser, we can always add a few more. Generous Patron will grant us extra card draw whenever we put counters to creatures to our opponents, and he counts them the same way Onti does. Cleopatra also gives you extra card draw, this time depending on the number of counters a legendary creature has when it dies. Obelisk Spider provides an extra Aristocrats effect based on the number of creatures we put counters on, while All Will Be One is an extremely powerful card that deals damage to any target depending on the counter we place in permanents in general. So, we expect it to deal massive amounts. Crumbling Ashes kills our opponent's creatures even faster, and Nest of Scarabs can create a big insect army ready to kill our opponents or, even better, to have them as targets to put -1/- counter on for extra card draws. Spitting Dilophosaurus not only will make sure our creatures can connect each time, it will make sure our opponent's creatures also connect each time as long as they attack each other. Finally, Yawgmoth is a well-known and powerful card, whether he is used as a -1/- counters disperser or a proliferator. Auntie loves proliferate, by the way, since she will trigger basically for each creature with a -1/-1 counter on it. Speaking about proliferate, we have ways to create extra -1/-1 counters. Sword of Truth and Justice and Karn's Bastion are two excellent ways to proliferate our existing counters. Harbinger of Night is an extremely powerful card in this deck. Thelon's Chant and its counterpart, Turach's Chant, are also excellent, especially if we combine them with things like Yavimaya or Urborg. Torture is a stellar -1/-1 counter source. Amit Eternal gets -1/-1 counters extremely fast the more the game is played. We don't always want our creatures to die from our counters though. Sometimes they are valuable, and we want them alive, and this makes them bad targets to put negative counters on. What are good creatures though that we can give -1/-1 counters? Well, there is a number we can add. Morsel Hoarder is probably the best of them, since it literally can turn any -1/-1 counter on it into mana. Deity of Scars is a big beater that has the ability to self-cleanse itself from counters, so also an excellent target, while Noxious Hatchling is also very easy to remove counters from, the more the game is played. We want to also add a few more generic cards that remove counters though. Find the Broker can turn counters into treasures. Quillspike can remove counters en masse for a big buff. Mutated Cultist provides a mass discount to the next card we will play depending on the number of counters it removed. And finally, Vampire Hexmage is a staple, extra efficient counter removing tool. The original list has extremely few cards to protect its game plan, so we will need to add a few more. Heroic Intervention is the generic all-star. Silkguard can provide massive protection for just a single mana, and finally, Tyrant Guard is very on theme with our deck. Ramp is another major flaw in the original list. It has too few ramp, and many of the choices I feel are very wrong. We play green, thus we will add the usual Sacred 6 of the green 2 CMC ramp, aka 3 Visits, Nature's Lore, Farseek, Rampant Growth, Shared Roots, and Sakura Tribuilder. We will also add a Flare of Cultivation and a Sky Shroud Claim. Other cards we can add that are worth to be mentioned are a Force of Vigor, since the original list is a bit weak in dealing with non-creature threats, a Balagate Recovery as a generic recursion tool option, and a Boggart Troller as a graveyard hate card. Finally, we get to the lands, which, in my opinion, once more in a Precon, is the deck's greatest flaw. Many of them enter tapped, they have land types, but there are no land type searchers to find them, etc. The number is also too big. I will go to a total of 34 lands, 36 with the MDFCs, which I find is a stellar number. We will upgrade them with the best possible mana base we can add. We will use the 3 shock lands, the 3 fetch lands, the 3 bond lands, and the 3 filter lands. We will also use the appropriate Triome, Plaza of Heroes, a Boseiju as an extra removal option, Volrath Stronghold for extra recurring option, Forbidden Orchard that also provides us with another target to put a counter on, Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista, a Bojuka Book as an extra grave hate, the before mentioned Karn's Bastion, Yavimaya and Urborg, and finally Urza's Cave as a land tutor staple. What do we take out to add all this though? Well, there are a number of things that can take the boot. Oft-nabbed Goat is a design masterpiece, but not a card I would depend on. Village Pillagers is a good card, but costs a bit too much. The same is true about Therafor. Tree of Perdition is a fun card, but has no purpose in this list. Ignoble Hierarch is an amazing card in general, but in this specific list, where the spread of -1/-1 counters is sometimes uncontrollable and en masse, I wouldn't want my mana base to be that vulnerable to my own mechanics. I would much prefer the land ramp options I mentioned already. Grave Titan is a generic beater and we don't need it. Puppeteer Click and Persist cards in general are not cards that I would run in this deck that constantly adds -1/-1 counters on its own creatures. If anything, Undying is the keyword that has better synergy with what the deck does. Arcfiend of Ifnir is an amazing card in decks with self-discard and the list runs close to none such effects. Glissa relies on connecting, and we are not really that much of an aggressive deck. Channeler Initiate is slow and vulnerable. Grim Puppet, Incimental Blight, Skin Render, Soul Snuffers, and Liliana Death Wielder are overcosted for what they do. Chimil is just generic good stuff. I have said it before, and I will say it again. I don't think I will ever put an Arcane Signet in any deck of mine that already runs green. Land ramp is superior to anything else, and if that's the case for Arcane Signet, then it's definitely the case for Commander Sphere. The deck has plenty of good draw engines already, so it won't need things like Painful Truths, Burning Curiosity, Harmonize, Hoarder's Greed, Cathartic Reunion, or Night's Whisper. The deck is good against creatures already, so we will also take out Putrefy, Cathartic Pyre, Chain Reaction, Infernal Grasp, or Terminate, an otherwise great spot removal spell. Last but not least, we will remove almost the entire land base, except from the command tower, the exotic orchard, 4 forests, 3 swamps, and 2 mountains. And there you have it, my Blight Cares upgraded Precon. I will put the decklist in the video description below. I hope you liked the video, and if you do, come and join my Discord community for free, where all my personal and public lists are uploaded. See you around! Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.